What if we designed a garage that wasn't about the cars? It was about the people in it. Here's where we ended up. Let's see how we got there.
When I was in college, I had this tiny one-car garage in my apartment complex. It was barely wide enough you couldn't open both doors at the same time. But I'd still spend hours there after work. I'd be getting ready for the track or the car meet, and I'd spend my time wrenching on my car, shop light clamped to a shelf. Sometimes my wife or her friends would stop by to periodically check to make sure I'm still okay. But man, I love these days. Just chilling, just wrenching in the garage. So when I had a client come to me, wanting to build a functional garage loft, not a showroom, but a working space for his car collection, I know exactly the vibe he was going for. This video is all about designing a space for passion, not polish. An industrial style building with just enough comfort to hang out with friends, but the bones of a garage where you can actually get your hands dirty. So a while back, I did this project for a client that owned a business and needed an office building. Project went great, super happy we became friends. A couple years later, he comes back. This client, he owns a few vintage Euro, JDM, domestic cars. He needed a space to keep him safe. But when he came to me, he said the magic words, "I also want to work on them." That was music to my ears, because this wasn't about glass walls and spotlights. It was about having a lift and a workbench, a couch to sit and talk shop with friends. He asked for a second floor loft, not necessarily to live in, but a spot to unwind, display memorabilia, and maybe crash after a long night in the garage. Sometimes that bolt just doesn't come loose and you need a place to scream. The goal was clear. Function first, personality second, but never fussy. He had a spot on his property where we built the office building where he wanted to put this. It had enough room, decent footprint, privacy from the street, but more importantly, no HOA, which means no rules, just good design. I started rough, thinking in forms. Big doors, open span, shed roof, keeping costs down, but allowing for the volume inside. While designing, I'm thinking about that tiny garage that I had, constantly wishing for vertical space, maybe even being able to open both doors without damaging the walls. So here we went tall. Enough clearance for a lift and a loft above. The plan is simple. 2.5 bays with exposed steel beams. Rear utility wall with workbench, storage, compressor. Loft above, accessible by a single stair. The vibe? Think warehouse meets bachelor pad, but without the leather and neon. More like concrete, steel, fridge full of Topo Chico, and maybe some old racing posters. So we zoned the space with intention. Fronts for entry, light, circulation. The back, pure utility. Tools, shelves, compressors, fluids, places where you gotta wrench on things and get it dirty. Second floor acts as a buffer, a retreat, a zone that can have some quiet space if you need it. I even thought about putting a big screen TV upstairs, or maybe arcade games or something, but I quickly realized no one's watching Netflix when there's an R34 on the lift downstairs. This is about the cars. This is about friends. This is about hanging out and focusing on the thing that you're passionate about. The materials, they needed to match the purpose. Durable, honest, low maintenance. We went with concrete slabs for the floors, just a steel frame mezzanine for the loft. Corrugated metal siding all over the walls, something you could crash into and ding up and nobody really cares. We added some clerestory windows up high for diffused light, and just a few touches of warm wood trim for contrast. There's a teaching that states, impermanence, that's part of the beauty. So we lean into that. We don't hide the wear and tear, we design for it. Scratches on the floor, that's all part of the story. Grease on the tools, that's evidence of the joy. Now that the concept is firm, we're going to bring it into 3D. I use Revit for my architectural work, so it just helps me visualize not just the form but the function, looking at the headroom, how much light gets into the space, what's the thickness of the insulation. This is a full production software that we use, But it really, even at an early point, it helps us gauge the things that we thought, do they actually make sense? And this is where the structure comes alive. Steel stairs, folding garage door, open soffits with conduit running through. Everything's visible, everything's intentional. We even mocked up where the cars would park, just to make sure no one had to suck in their gut to get past the fenders. I continue modeling the structure, but right around here, something didn't work. I had originally thought that the stair would pop into the space right in the middle, thinking it could be a feature. But once I modeled it, it just felt out of place. It's going to be a distraction. It's going to be in the way. It just felt disconnected. The stair wasn't the star of the show, the cars were. I was pretty locked into the idea, and I spent a lot of time refining that layout, but in the end, I ended up scrapping it. It's one of those moments you run into in almost every project. A small idea that becomes a big problem. But in hindsight, it was a gift, because the new stair design actually opened the whole place up. It wasn't an interference anymore. By flipping to the side, it allowed the true star of the show to shine. Function through failure. Happens more often than I'd like to admit. I feel like true architecture is just making it look like you meant to do it in the first place. Now it's all coming together. A simple shell, full of character. Open enough for group hangouts, tight enough to feel personal. This isn't a sterile showroom. It's the kind of space where you can spill oil, laugh too loud, and tinker until 2 a.m. without worrying about the neighbors yelling. Projects like this remind me why I design. I love the quiet sketchpad, sure, but I also love the sound of a socket wrench or the smell of warm tires after a back road drive. This garage isn't just a building, it's a place for stories, it's a place for solitude, and importantly, it's a place for connection. In practice, we say the path is the goal. Designing the space felt like that. Simple decisions, made with care, adding up to something meaningful. Thanks for watching this journey. If you're a car person, a design person, or just someone who likes functional, honest spaces, I'd love to hear what you think. You can subscribe for more slow design stories, or support the work with extra content on our Patreon below. Until next time, stay curious and design with intent.